This video is about absolutism in Spain under the King Philip II. If we're going to understand how Philip II ruled Spain, it's also important to know how he came into power. Philip's father, Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, shown in the picture at the top, ruled over several European countries. In 1556, Charles V retired and split his holdings. His son Philip II got control of Spain and its colonies, starting in 1556. While in power, Philip expanded Spanish land in Europe and around the world. If you look at this map, you can see that Spain, whose land is marked in yellow, controls parts of Europe, Africa, North America, South America, and Asia. In Europe, another important area that Spain controlled was the Netherlands, or Holland. Eventually, this area would break away. Philip's military endeavors were not as successful. When he tried to invade England in 1588, he failed. His world-famous fleet of warships, known as the Spanish Armada, was defeated by the faster, more maneuverable British ships in the English Channel. Spain's defeat at the hands of the English Navy marked their decline as the premier naval power in the world. However, Spain still seemed strong because of its wealth, gold and silver, coins like the ones pictured here, that flowed in from the colonies in the Americas. All of this gold and silver coming into Spain actually caused a lot of economic problems in that country. All of the new wealth caused the price of goods to constantly rise, something known as inflation. At the same time this inflation was happening, poor people in Spain had to pay new taxes that kept them from building up any wealth of their own. As prices rose, Spaniards began to buy goods from other places in Europe, where the prices were probably less expensive. Because of this, all of that gold and silver that Spain gained from their colonies began to flow to Spain's European enemies, as the Spanish used that gold and silver to pay for foreign goods. This made Spain weaker and its European enemies stronger. Now, Spain was also facing some serious political issues at this time. Under Philip II, they lost a lot of territory. Now, the most important territory that they lost was in the Spanish Netherlands, and that's a part of Northern Europe, kind of near England, also near where Germany and France are. And these were areas that were Protestant. Remember, Spain was strongly Catholic, so these two areas didn't really agree, but they did bring a lot of wealth to Spain. In 1579, these 7 provinces, known as the Netherlands, declared their independence from Spain. They broke away and formed their own country. Now these people, who are also sometimes called the Dutch, grew to dominate Asian trade. So not only did they break away from Spain, but then they stole a lot of Spain's foreign business. Alright, so we'll focus in on Philip now. Even though he lost some possessions, he basically held tight control over Spain. He, and others who ruled in the same way as him, were called absolute monarchs. He believed in holding all of the power. During this time period, when he was in charge of Spain, the Church's power had weakened, which also helped him to become an absolute ruler. Looking back, Philip's legacy is partially good and partially bad. He's remembered as an absolute monarch in Spanish history who helped to centralize power in his country, meaning that there was one strong government that had direct control over the entire empire. And he directed most of that government himself. He held a tight grip on what was happening inside the borders of Spain on domestic issues. Philip's nickname was Philip the Prudent, and he ruled over one of the world's largest empires ever, because Spain controlled all those colonies in the New World. Other things to know about Philip. During his reign, Spain was the foremost Western European power. Now we know that Spain was starting to lose steam as England started to take control of at least the Navy, or the title of the best Navy in Europe. But Spain was still the leader in colonization. Spain reached its height of influence and power, directing explorations all around the world, and settling the colonization of territories in all the known continents. So every continent that was known at that time, which is all of them except for Antarctica, had some Spanish territory on it. Some social issues in Spain at the time had to do with religion. Philip II was a devout Catholic, and he experienced many problems with the Muslim, Jewish, and Protestant populations in Spain, and there was a lot of religious conflict during this time. Also, the country stopped making money really for itself and started to rely on its colonies for money and products. Despite these problems, the cultural golden age of Spain began while Philip was in power. So this was a time when a lot of, books and art and other works were being made in Spain. Philip as a leader. He was known as cautious, hardworking, and he was suspicious of others. He built a very expensive granite palace called El Escorial. This was a spacious palace that served as a royal court, an art gallery, a monastery, and a tomb, or almost like a cemetery above ground, for Spanish royalty. He spent most of his time at his desk, carefully reading and responding to hundreds of documents from all over the empire. This is because he was an absolute leader, and he was suspicious of others. He liked to do all of the work himself, which is why he spent most of his time in his palace trying to do everything that was necessary to run Spain. Lastly, this is a picture of El Escorial. This was a large kind of gray rock palace that was built by Philip II in Spain. It still exists today.